Hey, hey, what's up, everybody? So excited to be here with you today. Oh my gosh, I was not planning on doing this session at this moment. I was actually in the middle of getting ready, and it was this overwhelming feeling to share. And those are my favorite moments to speak and to open and to teach. And so I jumped on. As you can see, I'm sitting in my bedroom and I am so excited to share with you. I'm going to ask you today, as we dive into this information, to put your hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and sit nice and straight with your feet on the ground. And let's just take some big, deep breaths together, in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And just continue to breathe and be with this information. Set the intention to open your heart to be able to receive and understand what is meant for you today as we dive into core beliefs. So, those of you that are in the exclusive group, when I talk about core beliefs, I want you to remember what we learned about dismantling and demolishing the core beliefs that don't serve us as we dive into this new teaching today. As we create new realities, as we manifest, as we open to the knowledge of all that we are and all that is possible through us, it's so important to understand the core beliefs we operate by, because these core beliefs operate as a blanket over our entire lives. And so oftentimes we try to we are stuck in the reality of a certain core belief or certain core beliefs that are working together. And we want to create a new reality, but because we're stuck in these blanketed core beliefs, it's like we can stick a little hand up through the snow, right? But we can't quite get to that new reality. And so today, as you think about my teaching on core beliefs, I want you to really start to examine some of yours. And when I mean core belief, we'll get into that later. Okay. So all of this came about in the shower this morning. And I've been praying and asking a lot of questions around why and how do people not see and feel things or open to things. Yesterday I was having a conversation with my dad about a certain religious affiliation. And I just said, I just don't understand how something deep inside their core isn't shouting at them that this is wrong and or that this is limiting. And, I try really hard to understand that everybody has to move through this world in the exact right beliefs that are necessary for them to reach their soul fulfillment. And so as I'm trying to understand this is the message I got. Our core beliefs shape our reality. And therefore, whatever core beliefs we have within our system is the only reality we have to see, the only reality we have at our disposal. For example, if you are a huge advocate for Western medicine, for prescriptions and certain diagnosed illnesses and doctors and all of that, you're going to see evidence everywhere around you that that is real, that that is true. You aren't even going to have the periphery vision to be able to say, oh, what is this yoga, Ayurvedic practice, apothecary? What is this holistic health? You're not even going to see the things around you. When you have a core belief about a certain religion, the only evidence that's going to show up for you is the evidence that supports that really deep blanket core belief. If you have a vision that every human on this world is innately evil, you're going to see a very evil world. There's going to be very little evidence to the contrary. And so as you examine your core beliefs, you put these lenses on you. I can't remember the book, and I don't want to butcher this story, but I'm feeling called to share it, so I'm going to. If anyone knows what book this is in, please let me know. But I was reading a book a couple months ago about this native tribe, that one of the very few tribes in the world that have not like seen modern technology. What was unique about this tribe was they didn't have a word in their language for the color blue. And so one day, this thought leader who wrote the book went to, there was some sort of experiment done with this group, and they showed them a color wheel of all these different shades of green and one shade of blue. And no one in the tribe could identify which color on the color wheel was blue. But they could identify the unique subtleties between every single shade of green that was on that color wheel because they had the language for it. They had these core beliefs, these built-in ideas of color and the world they can see, and therefore that's all they experienced. So it makes it easier for us to not judge other people for their core beliefs, because when we look at another person and we see the way that they're operating, the way they're dealing with emotions, the way that they're living their life, the way they're structuring their time, the way they're investing their energy, rather than judgment, we can say that's the core belief they're operating from. Really, I feel like we're at the point in this group where you've let go of judgment. You're living from that beautiful place of neutrality and focused on yourself. And so this is this new deepening, right? To examine these core beliefs that blanket your life. I'm going to share two with you of mine that I realized over the last couple weeks. I had a core belief here about this work, that when I got the nudge, like I did this morning, that was super exciting, right? That I would get on, that I would teach, that I would write, that I would create. And so there was this 2-month period where the nudge didn't come in the same way. The nudge came, but I didn't want to open my laptop. The nudge came, but I couldn't pick up my pen to write. I had this overwhelming belief of the right place, the right time, the right circumstances. And I set a goal about 4 weeks ago. I noticed where I wasn't in integrity with myself, where for 6 weeks, I didn't show up to the things that I told myself I would. I stopped recording my weekly podcast. I stopped writing the way that I was writing. I stopped being in total devotion to myself and what I needed. And I do believe there was a time and a place for that. My body really needed to rest. I really needed to grieve. I really needed to move through things. And at the same time, I had convinced myself that because I was going through this grief, because I was going through this transition, that the downloads and the teachings wouldn't be as inspired. And looking at it now, I see how false that was, because the last 4 weeks, choosing to show up in integrity and choosing to show up and sit down. And one of my guides actually said this to me a couple weeks ago, was you can also ask. You can sit down at your computer when you feel like you want to do this at a really beautiful time, and you can ask for the message, you can ask for the download, you can ask for the information. It's not always just given, because I do have core beliefs that my spirit, that my body, that my mind also listens and is in tune with what it wants and needs. And therefore I listen and honor those periods of rest, right? So I had to break that core belief. What I did was I had those thoughts come in. Whenever I had those thoughts come in about, oh, you need to be with yourself right now. You can't be teaching right now. You can't be working right now. Instead, I would say, is that belief really true? And can I open to a different kind of belief, that my grief can alchemize, that my grief can also inspire, that my fears and doubts can also become powerful transmuters of energy for my creations, right? Can I open myself to being with all of the energy? Going through the process, those of you in the exclusive membership group went through to reclaim your power from all of these different places that had it, right? It's the same thing we do with our core beliefs. Another core belief that I witnessed this last couple of weeks in someone else was a core belief of, you know, what love is, what accountability is. If we have a certain core belief about love, if anyone treats us in a way that doesn't feel or look like love to us, then we feel unloved. And so you have to be careful about your own core beliefs and the words you have. If you have a core belief that you are a really great mom, what does being a really great mom look like? Because sometimes that core belief can overshadow other core beliefs. And so maybe being a really great mom to you means showing up in every single way in all the right times and never taking a moment for yourself, right? That's not a very healthy core belief, even though it's a noble one, right? And so as we go deeper and as we examine these different facets of ourselves in which are creating our reality, we can start to call our power back and create a world anew. If you look around at your environment, your relationships, your bank account, your physical health, your emotional, mental, spiritual health, right? The way you feel about yourself, what core beliefs are present there? What are you creating there? And I don't want you to just sit here and go through all of the negative. Look at the positives too. Look at what brings you joy, because what I like to do is, like, in moments like this, when I just felt so inspired and I had to sit here and I had to speak these words and move through this energy, right? I can take this core belief, this gigantic, explosive, beautiful, powerful energy, and I can radiate it outwards. And I can allow my fears, I can allow my grief, I can allow those other beliefs that I examined to be there, and I can move this joy through them. And in those moments, I can start to speak and I can start to think and I can start to feel what I really, truly want to create. I can start to notice what sets my soul on fire. And as I am with that, I can make room for my fears and for my doubts, and I can allow them to alchemize and create something that's more in alignment with me. A lot of people struggle with looking at their core beliefs because when you've created an entire world, almost trapped yourself in a certain way of living and being, it's very hard to take it down wall by wall. And that's why in that first 30-day accelerator, I teach you how to move through and detonate those core beliefs one at a time and call your power back from them as you create what you truly want. But it does require a deep sitting with. Let me walk you through one of my favorite ways to sit with the essence of all of these beliefs. Okay. And it can be good. It can be a good one. It can be what we would call a negative one, or a heavier one, or one that's maybe pulling you away from yourself. I think that if you're in a place where you have a lot of what you don't want in your life, it's probably time to start sitting with some of those heavier ones. So I want you to, again, sit with your feet flat on the floor and take some big deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I want you to tune into the feelings within you, all of the tones of the feelings that move through your entire system. And I want you to grab one. I want you to grab a feeling that's radiating through you this morning. Maybe it's a doubt, maybe it's a fear, maybe it's a celebration, whatever it is that's very apparent to you. I want you to sit with it and let it move throughout your entire being. And as it moves within you, I want you to be with it. Listen, feel. If it's one of the heavier ones that you're trying to move through and create a new with, I want you to say, can I be open to a new way of believing, of thinking, of knowing about this? And then find a better feeling thought. So maybe your core belief was, my needs aren't met in one way or another. Can I be open to a new way of seeing this? And then maybe you flip it, all of my needs are met, and breathe into that, right? We're not bypassing or overriding those other emotions. Again, if you're following me, if you're in this group, you've done that deeper inner child work, you've done that shadow work. And if you haven't, I have do it yourself programs that will move and guide you through that, as well as the inner child oracle cards that will allow you to tune into those aspects of yourself. This is for those of us that have done the deep trauma work, that understand our trauma and aren't trying to bypass it, but do also understand that we are not our trauma, and we can tell a different story, that we can create a different story. And in those moments, it is safe, once you've done that work, to notice where your body still trapped those beliefs, where your mind still held on to some of those beliefs. And instead of feeding more of the story, we reclaim our power. We create something new with it. Your core beliefs are the blanket upon which your reality is shaped. Every single thing you see in front of you comes back to something you feel and know at your core. And as you unplug from those and create the ones you really, really want, everything changes. So take a big, deep breath with me. Set a powerful intention for the day. Know that you are held, know that you are loved, and let me know what core beliefs came up for you. For all my podcast and YouTube viewers, thank you for your participation. If you do want to enjoy the exclusive access to the member group where we do Q&As, really beautiful rituals, and you have exclusive access to all of these teachings, as well as my replies on comments and wonderings about them, go to my website, www.nikailamariah.com, or any of my social medias and find the link. It's really powerful, it's really beautiful, and a lot of like-minded people here with you, growing, expanding, and creating new realities. Thank you so much for being here today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what came up during this process, and have a beautiful week.